All right, let's get started. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. Welcome to the UX Come Up. I am so excited for tonight's event. For those of you who are coming to this event, having joined us for many of our events in 2020, thank you so much for making 2020 an even better year than was going to be without these events. I honestly, speaking for myself, I enjoyed and super looked forward to every single UXEU event. Those were the highlights of my month. They made the month that much better. All right, so for those that are coming to us from referrals or from other channels, make sure you join our meetup group, which is where we will post all of this year's events. That's where we have posted all of last year's events. This is how we kind of get the word out. And follow us on Instagram if you don't already follow us. We recently reached 1K, so thank you so much for helping us reach that. And our Instagram is UX Come Up. And if you'd like to join our Slack community, hit up Michelle. I have here me, but Michelle's there helping out as I manage everything else. But yeah, with that being said, let's jump right in. We have some really great presenters, some really great guest speakers. I just want to thank y'all in advance for joining us tonight. That's what we want to do in 2021. We want to invite more guest speakers on. So we're going to have Jason kick things off, and then we're going to have Kim, and then we're going to have John, and then we're going to have Elizabeth close the night out. But these are four really excellent, amazing guest speakers. They inspire me, and we connected on Instagram, which is amazing. But I'm going to let them introduce themselves because I don't think I could do a good enough job presenting them.
Awesome. Can anyone hear me okay? Feel free to just type in chat.
You're good.
Awesome. All right. So first things first, thank you so much for everyone that's coming out here from East, West Coast, outside of the US. So this is really a great opportunity for me to speak to you all today. And overall, I wanted to kick things off tonight by kind of just sharing you the interview tip I wish I'd known when going into my UX interviews as a early stage or even towards later in my career. And before I share insights, I want to take you all back to 2015, my life before UX. And that was me working in the film and TV industry. I was taking on a variety of roles from director, producer, video editor, and even background actor. So on your left, I was actually working on HBO Silicon Valley as a background actor. And as much as I was working on all these amazing and fun projects, the ultimate reality kicked in, which was, I'm not making enough money for my well-being, and I kind of need to eat. And also, I'm not doing any storytelling work that I once was supposed to do, which I thought, what the film and TV industry was all supposed to be about. So ultimately, I knew I still wanted to do storytelling, but the idea of changing careers really scared me so deeply that I didn't really know what to do. However, until one day, I had a friend tell me straight up, you should try looking into UX design. First, as many of you had no idea what that was. And after a few in-person events, I kind of kicked in as in, okay, maybe this is something I want to do. I want to explore a little bit more. I want to dedicate maybe 6 months to learning it. And the only caveat was I didn't know where to start. So at that time in mid-2017, this was around May 2017, I did not have $20,000 or $30,000 lying around for boot camp, unfortunately, at that time. So at that stage, I decided to rely on my other best friends, which is Udemy for online courses. So to all of you self-teachers or even bootcamp graduates, continuing education is really important still. So no matter how else you're learning your concepts or even your tactics and methodologies. So this was my education during the year 2017 as I decided to officially drop film and TV as a career and just try to see what the space is going to be like for me. Now, the takeaway I did get from film and TV was, yes, how to make stories and how storytelling actually applies from beginning, middle, and end. So I carried that skill with me into this field as well. And when 2018 hit, it was when I slowly got my feet wet, where I finally had a chance and opportunity to take on 2 client projects, and as well as traveling to Japan twice, by the way. I went to Japan twice in that 1 year for some reason, because I just really liked it a lot. And that friend I mentioned to you all about who said I should look into UX UI, he actually lived in Japan. So that's when I had a chance to visit him at his office. If you all don't know what Line is actually the Japanese version of WhatsApp. So he was working at that space and I had a chance to catch up with him there. So throughout this journey in 2018, the takeaway I learned was multiple things, which was how to assimilate in a different country when you don't know the language as much and how do you prepare for that. And the second was how to engage in client conversations when you need to understand what their goal is and as well as what they're looking for. So that was the takeaway for 2018 when I finally dug into my journey as a UX designer and trying to slowly come into this space. And 2019, this is when things totally changed for me. So to quickly just hit all the points, I attended my first hackathon and somehow my team and I, we won like $6,000 with Intel's technology. So this was part of AT&T's hackathon event that they were hosting in Los Angeles. And abruptly in April or about May 2019, I actually moved out to New York City on a whim after a quick vacation because I just did not really think LA was a good place for me to grow my career. So I just came out here without a job lined up. But within 2 months of staying in New York City, I actually found a role at American Express, and that's where I was working at for a short time being. And that's when officially my career started as a UX designer and as well as a product designer for me to fully understand the ultimate takeaway of 2019. And that ultimate takeaway was being adaptable to too many different areas. So whether it be a different city, whether it be a different industry that I was not familiar with, like finance, or even collaborating with people you don't know at first glance. And it's 2020, if you're all curious, you can actually just log into, one sec. You actually can all look into my Instagram and see what my 2020 was like, which I won't really go over here. But ultimately, the catch I wanted to share with you all of like, what does my story have to do with interviewing, especially that first title clip? It taught me something I was doing all along. And I believe every one of you has this ability in you, but you realize you're not really doing it yet. So that insight and tip I want to share with you all is code switching. And this is a tip that you all have been doing this whole time, whether you speak a foreign language or whether you're coming from a different industry and you speak the language of that industry and you're speaking a language and you're learning a different language as you continue to progress. So ultimately, this is just a quick definition of it, which practice of alternating between two or more languages or varieties of languages in conversation. So how does this really kind of tie into interviews? But before I dig into that, this is actually how I was able to kind of approach everything from my past career to even now by alternating how I speak when it comes to the language of design, the language of business, and the language of product, as I was able to advance my career and working these different areas because you're constantly learning different industries and different trends. But it's also important to kind of be open and curious to learn those new languages of how they speak. So for example, my storytelling, that I understood the language of that, as well as the multiple factors in the film and TV industry. I understood how to speak Japanese for a time being when I was in Japan. I also understood how finances work now, especially if you all like are points or reward hoarders like me, of what that principle and what that practice is like. So when it comes to interviews, which is what I want you all to kind of really take away from this, is when you are going to your first interview or even to your first interview or even multiple interviews as you advance in your career, you're going to be speaking different languages when you talk. So when it comes to design roles or research roles, you're obviously going to need to speak the language of design, and that's how hiring managers are going to be expecting you to speak. But when you interview with product managers, even as a designer, they want to know exactly if you can collaborate with them by speaking the language of product outside of design. So whether it be like how the business goals or even the bottom line of it, and as well as just the organization itself. And for developers, it's probably the same thing too, but it's mainly about what their world is, which is pretty much how they create all of our designs and how they meet the product goals and guidelines at the end of the day. And in order to practice this, especially for everyone that's like not super late in their career or even early stage, start by the community that you have right now, which is pretty much people that are trying to be UX designers or product designers that are trying to break in, and have conversations about designs and best practices of your organization, and as well as being open to the world outside of design. And what I mean by that is, in start having conversations with people that are not UX designers and just try to get to know them as human beings and be curious and see what their world is like. And I guess a good example of this would be speaking to folks that are way older than us, so the elderly or even people with disabilities, and see exactly what the world is before we design for them. And the quick end of this stick is essentially give it a try and let me know how it goes. From code switching, as in talking to designers, talking to product managers in your interviews, and see exactly how you can navigate your conversations by not constantly talking about design, but constantly talk about humans or just human talk. So at the end of the day, we are in the industry, not of tech, so to speak, but I believe that we're actually in the industry of people, and we're in the people business, and you can't have businesses without people. And that's what I'd like to end at my quick lightning talk at the end of the day. Feel free to connect with me and see how your interviews go and see what you can be coming up with at the next edge of your career. So thanks a lot.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jason. I super appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I wanted to chime in. I'm also from GA. But yeah, thank you everyone for being here today. Thanks for making this event as well. I'm Kim. I'm a product designer from New York, and I'm going to be sharing my screen now. Hold on. Okay. So all right, I'm going to be talking a little bit about UX in 2021 and what this means for us. So let's go right into it. Well, 2021 needs us to learn. And what do I mean by that? Well, 2020 was difficult, and we felt this around the world. The events that took place in 2020 will affect design in 2021 because it changed our lives. To name a few areas: designing for accessibility, inclusivity, personalization due to remote living, ethical design, intrusive design, designing for misinformation, and more. 2020 shed the light on many areas that need growing. There's a lot of work to be done and a lot of learning to do for all of us. And above all, 2021 needs you. Well, let's look at who you are today. A human being that survived 2020. And hell, you're curious enough to be here today. Maybe you finished the bootcamp, just started in UX or somewhere else. Overwhelmed. Sorry, I'm like trying to admit as well. Overwhelmed maybe with how big UX is, and it is. It is big. And that's why I wanted to take on this topic of learning for UX. It's broad, and 2021 is bringing many changes that you have to have in mind. I can say we can tackle all the work that needs to be done by accepting this. To grow, we need to understand, learn, and apply. The world doesn't stop for us, and 2020 was an example of this globally. Once you understand this, you'll understand why learning is important for life. You'll probably think, okay, so what area or point do I even start learning? What topic or branch of UX? And I'm just going to lay out 3 important steps for learning. First, we'll start off with awareness. We start by being aware of what we know, what we don't know. And if you don't know, I want you to be intentional with everything, with yourself. Pay attention to the changes in front of us. Analyze your knowledge gaps. Accept what we know isn't enough. And let's be honest, school isn't enough. Hell, school needs to be revamped. And the pandemic also highlighted this. I don't know why it took a pandemic to realize that while we've had online classes before, we couldn't transform, completely to online. And we were met with so much friction. But maybe that's something that you could focus on for 2021. So a little bit about me. I'm probably considered the transfer queen somewhere for attending 4 colleges. But I could speak on the fact that any curriculum is just a guideline to be applied at work and in the world, but it's just a guideline. It's the bare bones. At work, in real life, you'll come across far diverse issues, people, cases, and then 1 year later, technology advances, trends change, discoveries happen, a pandemic hits. So I'll tell you a little story about me, about learning on the job. As soon as the pandemic hit, I was laid off. But luckily, I was very fortunate enough to nab another position for a media company shortly after. still, since we're in uncertain times, we're in a pandemic, I was under a lot of stress. I mean, you could lose your job any minute. Who knows what could happen, right? So I'll tell you a little bit about the first task that I had on this job, and it was to design a story for coronavirus. And I have never had the tightest deadline in my life. And it was the first thing I was taking on, and being new to the company and having to onboard remotely, and I had to do this fast. So to be frank, I don't think I've ever sweat any more in my life than this point in time. But having been able to complete this was a big milestone for me, and it highlighted fears I realized I needed to get over. But first, I became aware of this area to improve on. Once you notice your weakness, tackle it. Sometimes it can be hard to pinpoint what your weaknesses are, but I've learned if it's something that you're naturally shying away from, or you suddenly get afraid of, it's because you're weak in that area. Your life is molded by what you accept to learn, your opportunities, what you know or refuse to know, your ability to take on tasks or even deny them create your reality. Becoming aware of your weaknesses is the first step. Next step, solutions. Now, learning step by step is better than not learning at all. Whether you're working in UX or you finished the bootcamp, what I want you to do is this. Whenever you come across an issue, a gray area you're uncertain of, buy a book, ask a friend, or Google it for that topic. Become damn good at it. It is normal to have questions. What's important is your resolve. It doesn't matter if you're learning on the job, topic by topic. What's best is that you're learning at all and you're being proactive about it. Learning like this, even step by step, is less overwhelming and will ensure you touch your bases. UX is multifaceted. It is okay to feel unsure of an area within UX. UX is also one of the broadest areas in which many designers either specialize in something, start off as generalists, have a little knowledge on every area, but it is hard to know every facet of UX design. So I want you to remember that whenever you come across a problem where you feel like there's too much information to possibly take on. Take it piece by piece, because step by step is better than not learning at all. And since UX is one of the broadest fields, I mean, if you know some designers, most designers, a lot of designers, go on to complete certifications year after year, attend conferences to learn more. We love learning. This isn't a field to stay quiet in or keep your questions to yourself. It's certainly not a time to do so as well. We must investigate for our answers. Through learning, we also become better designers. Last step. If you're learning to get better, focus on study habits for retention, which means review until it's solidified. I want it to be second nature for you to think of accessibility, inclusivity when going into 2021 as a designer, to apply the lessons we learned and have had highlighted throughout 2020. So this next slide, this Herman Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. This shows how information is lost over time when you don't attempt to retain information. So by this, try to schedule your study sessions in which they aren't too far apart to retain all of that good stuff. So here's a summary. Embrace learning by becoming aware of your knowledge gaps. Create solutions for yourself by learning step by step. As you have questions, and review to instill knowledge, because I know you want to remember all of that information. Fall in love with learning, and you also future-proof your career, essentially. Fall in love with learning and you expand your knowledge from what you thought was possible. Now let's get to work. 2021 has a lot in store, and 2021 needs you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Virtual claps. We're not in person, but we can see your faces. Thank you so much, Kim.
All right. So I think you guys should be able to see my screen now. So just let me know. Okay. It looks like we're good to go. So this is, my talk is going to be about the power of storytelling, why your story, specifically you, yes, I'm talking to you, why it's your superpower and how it makes you kind of irreplaceable when you're applying for the job hunt or whatever it is. So just a little bit about me. My name is Jonathan Haynes, and I am yet another person that represents another borough from New York. I'm from Brooklyn, just like Miguel. And I see Kim shaking her head right now, but yeah, so I'm a UX and product designer. I work for a finance company, and I'm also a teacher and mentor for Thinkful and the IDF. And just one other thing about me, I love puns, I love pop culture references, things like that. You would think that this is kind of a throwaway line for my presentation, but actually it has a lot to do with it. So basically, have any of you guys ever seen this before? This is a YouTube web series called Epic Rap Battles of History. And they've been doing this for like 10 years. So it's not like this is like a new thing. But recently they came out with this new episode, Harry Potter versus Luke Skywalker. And it is straight fire, so definitely check it out. I would play it for you right here, but that's basically half of my speaking time, so I'm not going to do that. But basically the point is that, each of these characters talk to each other and they see which one is a better rapper or whatever. And I got into a discussion about this particular episode with a few of my friends who were talking about how, Harry Potter's story is kind of ripped off from Luke Skywalker's story. You could see in some of these screenshots that, both of these characters were raised by their distant relatives. As you can see here, Luke with his Uncle Owen and Beru, and Harry with the Dursleys. And they also, had mentors who were basically like old men who knew like these magical powers or whatever it is. Funky wizard dudes, as they say. And basically, like, this is true, but the more I thought about it, the more that it really made sense to me. Because as you can see by the title of the slide, creativity is basically just remixing something that already exists. You don't have to come up with something that's original, like your story or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be something that is, extremely original, but it's basically a take on something that has probably happened time and time again. Just admitting someone. So if anyone in the audience knows who any of these three people are, just shout it out in the chats if you know. I don't really expect anyone to know the guy on the bottom left, because basically it's just the back of his head and he's not really important anyway. He was just in the picture. That is Bill Moyers. He's a journalist, just in case you were wondering. But the guy standing up over there, a lot of you might recognize him. This is George Lucas. He's famous for creating the Star Wars universe and all that stuff. And you could kind of see that he's very interested in the man sitting down. He's giving him like the googly eyes. He's very inspired by this guy. This guy sitting down is Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell is famous for popularizing what's called the Monomyth. And this is a book that he came out with in, I guess, like the 40s or 50s or something like that. And it's basically called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And the whole premise of this book is that there are a lot of stories out there, and usually they follow a very similar sort of formula. So that's kind of like what we're seeing with, Harry Potter and Luke. They're basically a very similar story, and people don't really care because they're both original, they're creatively remixed stories or whatever. You could even, use an example of, a baby with godlike powers is born and is raised by normal parents and then grows up to save the world. Like I could be describing Superman, or I could be describing, the guy on the cover, which looks like Jesus, basically. So that's basically how stories could be, used over and over and over again and basically remixed to something else. So why is this the case? Well, as human beings, we like to think that we're very logical creatures. We're very smart and all that stuff. And this is true, but at the same time, a lot of us basically just think with our emotions a lot of the time. And, this is why we go see movies, we laugh, we cry, we do all this other stuff, because we kind of crave that sort of, those sort of emotions that really do something to our brains, basically. This guy, he lived a long time ago. His name is Plato. And if you guys probably went to high school or college or whatever, you probably remember him sort of somewhat or whatever. But one thing that he did come up with was the Allegory of the Cave. And if you don't remember what the Allegory of the Cave is about, it's basically the Matrix, but in ancient Greece. It's basically the same premise of, I'm not going to describe it right now, but yeah, just watch the Matrix and you'll get it. And brands know how to do storytelling as well. Show of hands, how many people cared about insurance before Geico started making really funny commercials? maybe one or two of you. I don't know who likes insurance. But basically, Geico kind of took something that is more or less boring and turned it into storytelling. They made a character like a little gecko that walked around. They made cavemen that got into trouble and all that kind of stuff. And that storytelling kind of made the brand what it is today. And another brand that I really like that does this really well is Spotify. How many of you remember back in December when you probably got a notification from Spotify telling you that, you listened to this song 100 times and this song 200 times? And they kind of give you a sense of, what you are interested in, like your story about how you listen to music. Spotify actually did a campaign a few years ago where they put these billboards up. This one's in New York. And basically, if you can't read it, it says, "Dear person who played Sorry 42 times on Valentine's Day, what did you do?" So if you don't know what Sorry is, it is a song from a few years ago from the Canadian legend Justin Bieber. And basically what this billboard does is it tells a story. It's a story about a boyfriend or girlfriend that really messed up and they really just want their ex to come back, right? Like in just one line, they're basically storytelling. Instead of just basically plasting, a billboard that says Spotify, they're actually telling us something that is a little bit more emotional to us and it resonates with us a little bit better. So why does this all matter when we're talking about UX? I've been talking a lot, haven't really gotten into the UX side of things. I'll get there. But basically, all stories contain very similar elements. All stories have conflict. This boyfriend or girlfriend like messed up and there's conflict. They all have relatability, kind of similar, and they all have growth. Even the fact that this person is listening to this song is actually showing some growth because at least he or she is showing some remorse for his choices or whatever. But this makes sense from a UX standpoint point of view as an individual too, because if you were to look at a case study is basically your way of getting in. A case study lives inside of your portfolio, and it's supposed to be a story that is telling someone how you solved a particular problem. And we could kind of overlay those steps onto this case study as well. So in the beginning where we have our problem statement and overview, we could put there's a conflict there. And then for the process and what you did and the outcomes and results, we could talk about the growth, like how did you change, how did you get better, basically. And even if we want to zoom out of the case study, we could talk about portfolios too. And we could talk about how your portfolio is basically your sales pitch. You're trying to basically show how you're basically relatable, and you're basically able to take on a job because you are a person that has good qualities and you're relatable or whatever. And just a word of notes, these two screenshots here are from, one is from Jake Knapp, who is the author of Sprints and, pretty big design guy. And then the other one is Simon Pan, he works at Uber. So both of these people are extremely reputable, and they both kind of agree that, your portfolio is basically, you're supposed to be storytelling. You're supposed to be kind of relating to someone as a human being and trying to get your story out there. So basically, you are your own brand. And you have to always remember that your story is worth telling, even if, maybe it doesn't sound original or anything like that. It doesn't matter because you have to put your own creative spin on it. I know that there's a pandemic or whatever, but just kind of picture yourself walking to that next interview. Maybe you're carrying your little briefcase. Maybe you have a little cup of coffee or something like that with your little glasses. And, you have to remember that there is a very hard and sad truth that I definitely have realized over the years, and that is that a mediocre designer who could tell a really good story is most likely going to be more successful than a really good designer that can't really explain him or herself well. So it is kind of unfortunate, but storytelling is something that really is going to make you stand out amongst the rest. And how to make your story worth reading. Just a few steps here. No, nothing too crazy, but basically, just be relatable, be human. The people that are going to, call you for interviews and stuff like that, they're human too, and they don't want to work with someone that they don't like, right? Like that's kind of like how humans function, I guess. So definitely try to be relatable, try to be human, and all that kind of stuff. Are you enjoyable to work with? Also show growth. Maybe you are writing some case studies and things like that. Are you showing how you started and how you finished? Are you showing that you actually grew throughout your case studies and things like that? And can you take a company to the next level? And show consistency. This one's huge. You have to show up like every single day. You can't take days off. You know, you're not Kyrie Irving. You got to be consistent in your work and all that kind of stuff. All right. So always show up. And lastly, just know your why. This is a concept that's basically, you know, there are companies out there that do exceptionally better because they know why they're doing what they do. So, you know, people want to know that you are going to be the mentor to the next wave of junior designers. So it's very important that you know why you're doing what you're doing. That's basically it. You know, just show tell your story, all that kind of stuff. My LinkedIn and Instagram is down there. So feel free to copy it down or screenshot it or whatever, or message me, I don't mind, whatever. And that's basically it.
Awesome, John. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Virtual claps, virtual claps.
Thank you, guys.
Going around the room. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Hi, guys. So excited to be here. So my name is Elizabeth. I work in finance. I'm from Stockholm. So it's in the middle of the night right now. So I'm literally like plunging my eyes open. So I'm so excited to be here. I'm gonna quickly present. So hi guys, this is me in a very good picture. I look so you have to choose like the little bit uglier picture, I guess, so you can see better in live. So I'm gonna talk about a little bit myself, and then I'm gonna share a secret sauce to 2021. So this is me, 30 years of life experience, and I have been taking different perspectives a lot. You don't have to get upside down to get a different perspective, but I literally enjoy it doing like that. And every little thing in my life have influenced my UX career as well. So everything is so worthwhile, and just enjoy and just cherish every moment. So I transitioned from art to UX, and I was a struggling artist. Yes, it was very hard to make money with art, and I was a little bit naive going into with such an optimism. And I was working extra for an e-commerce little shop. I was so tired of this template they had. It was impossible to convert the sales and meet expectations. So I transitioned to UX after that, and I have been in startups and design agencies, and now I work in a big bank in Stockholm, and it's so much fun. I love it where I am right now. So enough about me, and now it's something for you. This is my secret sauce to transition to UX in 2021. And there's a lot of ways, but this is the way that you can really tune in to UX very quickly. So step number 1 is to know yourself. And I know, maybe it sounds like, okay, but when you know yourself, you know where you are going. Yeah. So this is little me. This is my inner child, Elizabeth, and I really connect with her all the time to cherish her needs. So she will almost like guide me where I should be in my life. So this is a very little exercise that I do. It's like a therapy, and it keeps you in balance in career and personal life. So, and it's a key to know yourself. So connect with your inner child. Then map up all your strengths and weaknesses. It will give you a very clear picture what you have to work on right now. Maybe you have been working as a journalist and you are super good at communicating, but you are not very good at visuals. So you can see very clearly what you have to work on. And maybe you are excellent in visuals and arts and need to be better at understanding the business and getting on top, making fast decisions and lots of other things. So I stumbled upon this workshop with Christo. It's 2 hours, I know, but it's worth it. He will also get you a very holistic picture about what do you love to do, what you are good at, what makes money, and what world needs. But this is the whole point of the get to know yourself, so you can have these 4 ingredients in balance, so you can offer something the world needs as well, and people will pay you and you love it. Isn't that fantastic? So I don't see a chat, so if you have any questions, you can drop them later. But now I'm going to share the secret sauce ingredient number 2. It is niche down and get yourself out there. Articulate. And this is something that I was not, my teachers didn't say that to me. They said to try out different things, go to UX research and do the lean thing and do every bit of everything. And my tip to you to 2021 is to niche down. Find your niche. When you know yourself, you are already chosen some branches you want to work at or some themes. And this will give you even more speed to your first job or to your job you really, really love. So where is the gap for you? Try to see what kind of problem you can solve. Maybe you're very outdoorsy and you love to shop. So try to mix these 2 together. Or maybe you have been working in a hospital and are very good with medical things, and now you're transitioning into design. Why not just blend them together? They really need new new interfaces, actually. And the key thing here is with niche is to know more than the average designer in your niche. So dig a little deeper than the average designer would go, and you will be a hit. So I think UX is also like a lifestyle, right? You have to fail and you have to make failure your friend, but you fail not just to fail, you fail to learn. And you learn faster if you fail faster. So be bold. You don't have to go on a highway with a skateboard, but just in case, I don't recommend that, but do the failing and learn from it. Step number 3 is companionship. Find your mentor and your community. And this is a big one for me. I started my job where I am because I fell in love with my mentor. I wanted to learn everything from her. She was just so kind and humble and helped me a lot in my career, as well as the community. My pro tip here will be that you have your other students or other UX designers in your community as your cheerleaders, and you are going to cheer for each other and lift each other, because you're all going to have amazing careers, and it will be the best thing to do for each other, to lift each other and yeah, help each other. So when I was a super junior, I later ended up recruiting 2 other designers who were seniors to me. So stay humble in your career. So the secret sauce recap, I have to say the power lies in knowing yourself, because it will speed up things for you. So be bold and carve your niche, because I know it's a brave thing to do. You can you can change your path later if it didn't work for you. Just try it out. And the last one is have your support group from your design peers along the way. And why not? I see you all the guys are here, so that's a great start. So now it's your turn to transition into UX. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Virtual claps, virtual claps. So much. Everyone, thank you so much. I usually make the joke here of you don't got to go home, but oh wait, you're already home. So you could just go ahead and log off. Thank you so much for joining us. I super appreciate you being a part of this community. We have a whole year worth of events planned for y'all. Show us some love while you are on your way out in the chat, and I'll see you at the next event in February. We're going to announce it in the next week. So follow us on Instagram where we will share when the next event is, and show love to the 4 speakers, which really came through tonight with the event. So as you walk away in the chat, just show love to them. If anybody said that's something that really resonated with you. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. Good night.